What if I told you there's a digital detective out there, working 24/7, silently connecting every single dot of your financial life? And no, this isn't some kind of science fiction movie plot. This is the reality of how HMRC operates right now. Today, thanks to the experts at My Tax Accountant, we are pulling back the curtain on surveillance capabilities that are, frankly, beyond what most of us could even imagine.
You know that feeling, right? That little nagging thought in the back of your mind that the tax man sees, well, everything? It turns out that feeling is a lot closer to the truth than you might think. They are watching more closely than ever, and that line between your bank account, your online hustle, and your tax return has become incredibly blurry.
So the big question is, how on earth do they do it? Well, today, we're going to get right to the heart of it. We're breaking down exactly what every single UK taxpayer needs to know about how HMRC really works behind the scenes. Okay, let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap for today. First up, we're going to meet HMRC's powerful digital detective. Then, we'll take a peek inside their very exclusive high net worth unit. After that, we'll look at what an investigation actually involves, decode their penalty system, and, probably most importantly, we'll finish up with how you can stay compliant.
Right then, let's jump straight in. At the very core of the UK's modern tax system is this incredibly powerful piece of technology. And you really have to stop thinking of it as just some boring government accounting software. It's much more than that. Think of it as an all-seeing digital detective.
And this detective has a name. It's called Connect. It's this massive AI-driven data mining system that sifts through literally billions of pieces of data. We're talking about information from other government departments, your bank, the land registry, and even online marketplaces like eBay, Airbnb, and Etsy. Its job is to piece it all together to build a detailed financial profile of every taxpayer looking for anything that doesn't add up.
So, why does something this powerful even exist? Well, its whole mission is to tackle something called the tax gap. This isn't just a small accounting error. We're talking about the huge difference between the amount of tax HMRC should be collecting and what it actually gets. And that gap is worth billions of pounds. This system is designed to find every single pound that might be missing, whether it's from an honest mistake or something more deliberate.
Now here's the part that always gets people. Connect wasn't built by an accounting firm. It was built by BAE Systems. Yeah, you heard that right, the Global Defense and Aerospace Company. That fact alone should tell you everything you need to know about the sheer power we're talking about here. This is literally military-grade data analysis being pointed at our tax returns. But here's the thing. This incredible tool isn't applied to everyone in exactly the same way. HMRC focuses its most intense firepower on those it considers the highest risk. And that brings us to a very specialized and, let's be honest, pretty secretive part of their operation, the high net worth unit.
So, who gets this special attention? Well, to get on the radar, the bar is pretty high. We're talking about a net worth of at least £20 million. And just to be clear, that means all your assets. Property, investments, savings, minus any debts you might have. It's a threshold that captures the absolute wealthiest individuals in the UK. And how many people are we actually talking about? You might be surprised. The unit focuses on a tiny, tiny fraction of the population. Just around 6,500 individuals fall into this exclusive club. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 1 in every 5,000 taxpayers. It is an incredibly small group.
So why all the fuss over such a small group of people? Well, because the numbers involved are just staggering. In one recent tax year, HMRC was investigating potential tax risks from this group alone that added up to a cool £1.9 billion. This isn't just about collecting a bit of extra tax, it's about pursuing colossal sums of money. And really, this image sums it up perfectly. For these individuals, their financial lives aren't straightforward. Their wealth is often spread across multiple countries, tied up in complex offshore trusts, sprawling business interests, and all sorts of investments. For HMRC, it's not a simple tax return. It's a giant, intricate puzzle that needs a dedicated team of experts to solve.
Now, this dedicated approach goes way beyond just crunching data. When the stakes are this high, HMRC brings in a very personal human layer to its investigations. This is where we see the real anatomy of how they manage these high-value cases. You see, each one of those 6,500 individuals gets their own named contact at HMRC, known as a Customer Relationship Manager, or CRM. But don't let that friendly title fool you. This is not about customer service. Their job is to build a deep, ongoing, and frankly forensic understanding of the taxpayer's finances, to identify risks, and to scrutinize their behavior. So what exactly are these CRMs looking for? Well, they're trained to spot some very specific red flags. Things like the use of marketed tax avoidance schemes, those complex, often artificial setups designed to reduce tax. They'll pore over capital gains calculations, look for any hint of undeclared foreign income, and they will challenge any incorrect claims about residency and domicile status, which can make a huge difference to a tax bill.
And here's a quick pro tip that shows just how serious this can all get. And stay with me because this next point might really surprise you. If an error is found that involves offshore assets in certain places, the penalties can be absolutely huge. We're not talking about a little slap on the wrist. Penalties can go all the way up to 200% of the tax that was owed. That's double the maximum penalty for a purely UK-based mistake.
Which brings us nicely to the next bit. What actually happens when HMRC finds a mistake? Well, it's not random. They use a very specific framework called the penalty matrix. And by understanding this, we can turn all that fear and uncertainty into some much-needed clarity.
Okay, so the absolutely crucial thing to get here is that penalties aren't just based on how much tax you owe, they're based on your behavior. HMRC puts mistakes into categories, from a simple careless error all the way up to deliberate and concealed. And just as important is who found it. If you tell them first, that's an unprompted disclosure. But if they find it, that's a prompted disclosure. And believe me, the difference in the penalty can be massive.
Let's make this real. Imagine a freelance designer in London for the 2025/26 tax year. She earns an extra £5,000 from a side project, but completely forgets to put it on her tax return. If she realizes her mistake later on and tells HMRC, it's likely to be seen as careless and unprompted. The penalty could be as low as 0%. But if HMRC's Connect system flags it first, it becomes prompted, and that penalty immediately starts at a minimum of 15% of the tax owed.
But that's not all. And here's where most people can actually make a big difference. Even if you are facing a penalty, that final number isn't set in stone. You can get it reduced based on how well you cooperate. HMRC calls it telling, helping, and giving. You need to tell them exactly how the error happened, help them by answering all their questions fully, and give them prompt access to any records they need. The more you help, the lower the final penalty will be.
So after all that, after seeing the power of their systems, the focus of their elite units, and the logic behind their penalties, what's the best way forward? What's your strategy for navigating this complex world and staying on the right side of HMRC?
It really all comes down to this one simple idea. In a world where a digital detective is always watching, always connecting the dots, trying to hide things is an incredibly risky game to play. Full transparency, being proactive about mistakes, and keeping meticulous records, they aren't just good habits anymore. They are your absolute best defense.
Now, of course, it is very important for me to say that everything we've talked about today is for general information. It's not intended as financial advice and shouldn't be relied upon to make decisions. Tax is incredibly complex and everyone's situation is unique.
So, before you make any decisions, it is absolutely essential to consult a professional. If you do need expert help with your taxes, or if HMRC has contacted you, you can get in touch with the specialists at My Tax Accountant. You can call them on 0208 570 8531, or you can email them at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. And for more insights just like this, please do make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching.